catch up with us when he does get on, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. One thing I'd like to note is that the agenda date is wrong because we moved our meeting ahead a week due to the storm. So we are meeting on the 17th. I'd like to call the meeting to order and call attendance. Legislator Jonathan Anna is here. Stephanie DeVito here. Our Vice Chair Hans Petcher is here. And Mark Strong hopefully will join us as he can. Minutes to approve. A motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Move it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Appointments. Our appointments, we can discuss them at meetings. They actually will be voted on at full legislative meetings. I do have one thing to add regarding Susan Gray. We're going to remove her from the list of appointments only because she is unable to be in town to sign the oath of office within the required 30 days. If you want to take note of that. Any other discussions about appointments?
I just want to make a comment. Frank Perkins, he was a resident of District 1. This is a gentleman who was dedicated his life to help others. He actually organizes and takes care of the seniors group up in District 1. Organizes flu shots, organizes COVID clinic during COVID. He's been on the committee before. He's going to continue to be a great member for help.
Great, thank you for that information. Moving ahead to our department updates for the committee. We are sort of going to what is old is new again, and we are conducting our meetings here at the table, and we would like to invite each department head to come to the table and join us to give their updates, etc. And I'd also like to note a few things. In addition to the small group here, our discussions regarding resolutions will happen within committee first. And then if there's discussion and comment from legislators outside committee, we'll then go to them. Also, this is a working group committee. So we are not pledging the flag. This isn't a full legislative meeting, but a working group. And again, like in the past, we're moving to that protocol. So department heads, Kathleen Cuddy, Department of Health, please join us.
Heidi, Mark said he's gonna, so.
He just couldn't get
He
in.
just came in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
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 Welcome.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Yes, I do have a few things to update on, and then you want to do resolutions
Yes.
after that? Is that what you
I'm
prefer?
laughing because you see, you
I-
feel
I
like
shrink- I'm a shrinking figure.
She's a chair.
The chair. Is it the chair?
Yeah, it's a chair. It's not you.
That's okay. So yes, actually, I did have. So thank you. For those of you who are newer to your positions, I know we reached out and we look forward to having you visit the health department. We'll get a date over to you and we'll find a Wednesday, and I know Deanna's been in touch with you also, Stephanie, so
Yeah.
we'll be setting up some time. So it'll be great to show you around the Dill Street offices. So, thanks. I wanted to just kind of share some of the goals I have for our department this year. I have a few bullet points here. Some of them hopefully will be addressed very shortly. My first goal is to fill some of our vacant positions. We have a few resolutions there that will help with that. I'd like to provide some ongoing leadership training for our directors and other supervisory personnel, which I'm hoping will translate into greater, job satisfaction, enhanced performance, retention of personnel, and morale boosting. We have a lot of new people in leadership positions or They may not be new to working in the health department, but they're new to those positions, and I think while I will certainly do what I can to help set an example and provide some guidance, I think it's always great to have some external expertise to provide some assistance. I expect we have some funding that will help with that as well. We're looking to implement some new software to provide some automation and efficiencies in some of our program areas. So we were approved and moved forward with some preschool special education software that will be looking to implement later this year with the school districts. This is the first half worked with providers external to the school districts and then entering information electronically. And this second half will work with the school districts to have them enter their information electronically. It's for the preschool special education program. It's one of our most costly programs within the health department and certainly costly to the county. It should help also provide some efficiencies in areas that will really benefit us long-term, not only for the current staff, but for fiscal staff, which we know, we've had conversations about staffing issue, status in our departments and in our fiscal unit in particular. The majority, not all, the majority of our staff members are at a point in their careers where if they chose to retire, they could, or they're very close to doing so. So anything we can do to help automate some of the work that's done, I think will help with ongoing job training when we have people performing that. Another software that we just had our training yesterday on is called Track with Jack. It helps with our state aid tracking. So we get a lot of state aid funding through the health department. There's a base grant of $750,000 for core services. Anything we spend in those core service areas beyond that $750,000 base grant, we get 36 cents to the dollar. But of course, everybody's time has to be allocated a certain way. And this software system is by Benesky Associates and there's probably about 25 other counties in New York State that are using it. And they found it very, helps provide some reporting on time use and helps considerably with saving time and doing the state aid application. So we look forward to getting that well underway. We also are always on the lookout to how we can better utilize our software systems. We do have one of them being our electronic medical record and different reports that we can get out of that. So that's something that we're looking forward and we're fortunate that our medical director, Dr. Joy, is very familiar with that program also. So he's able to help us with looking to identify any particular priorities for each division and develop some feasible plans and timelines to help complete them. I'd like us to develop a more specific quality assurance program for a number of our program areas that require QA. I would say, I hate to talk about things that aren't ideal within the department, but our QA program is not ideal. So we need to ideally have some sort of strategic planning, which really would be a subcategory to my last bullet, which is to explore the feasibility of potentially starting public health accreditation. Something we've been talking about on and off over years. There's different funding sources. If we do move in that direction, it is a commitment. It's time sensitive to go through all the hoops, but it is a gold star of standardization, which speaks well for the department if we are able to attain that. But it's very, it will take a considerable amount of time. So until we are fully staffed, it's on the back burner. I kind of have a motto for this year that we have a directors meeting tomorrow, and I've been sharing it with some of our directors that I want to explain why that's going to be my motto with the health department. I think we'll do that more and share it with all of our staff. Explain why we perform certain programs, why they matter, why it makes a difference long-term for both public health, for individuals' development, but also there's financial savings in a lot of the programs that we do. They may not be immediate, they're more long-term, but they all benefit the community. And I think that helps for the public to understand more, helps in appreciating not only the services provided, but in compliance with things when there's regulations that surround them. So more to come on that. A couple of updates. We did receive a letter of acknowledgement that we received performance incentive funding for year 11. So as part of the state aid, this Article 6 funding, they call it. There are special programs that the state has set up to give supplemental money to health departments if they're able to achieve certain goals. This past one, really, this year 11 that is now passed, probably the easiest one we've ever had to do because we really didn't have to do a heck of a lot ourselves. We had to attend a couple trainings, but it was all about wastewater surveillance. And it was really interesting. So it's the wastewater surveillance testing that identifies viruses. In some areas, they were looking at polio virus. They were looking at all the areas at coronavirus. But our partners at the City of Auburn take samples and then send them into the Wadsworth laboratories and the other laboratories that provide that analysis. So it's very interesting. I think there'll be a lot more that comes out about wastewater analysis reporting down the line, but we were able to get just shy of $18,000, $17,995. So we're happy about that. And that goes towards state aid. So it's not, they don't cut us a check, but that again is something that will go on top of our grant, our base grant that we can claim for core services that are provided. And I'll speak more to those core services over time when I meet with some of our newer legislators. I know many of you more experienced are already familiar with them. A couple program areas that we as local health departments across the state have really been working with our state representatives to make some alterations to be more local health department friendly in some of the regulatory areas appear to have passed through the governor's office, which we're very happy about. There are some chapter amendments required. I can't speak to what those are specifically, but we anticipate that will be adopted accordingly. This is for Article 28 regulation. Article 28 is our diagnostic and treatment center, which is our clinic where we give our shots, and also we do blood testing that falls under our Article 28. So we're still very limited in what we serve under that, but we're held to the same regulatory standards and policies and procedures that a hospital is held to, because hospitals are Article 28s also. And of course, they do a lot more direct care than the very limited that we do. So we're pleased that there'll be some limited regulations for local health departments. The same applies to the Article 36 regulation change, which will be forthcoming. In Article 36, in our case, is for our licensed home care service agency, which is for home visitation for nursing. Now, we do very little of that in the health department now. Those of you know in the past, there was quite a bit that we did, but we've really pared down local health departments or safety nets. So if there are commercial entities that can perform the service, they perform the service. But we're still required to maintain licensure. And we do use it on occasion, but very rarely. So again, looking to pare down on regulatory expectation of local health departments who have limited direct care service. So we're happy about that. When the governor spoke her state of the state, there's a number of things that our state health organization is pulling from some of her information that pertains to us as local health departments. But one of the big areas that I know she has interest in, and we do also, is maternal and child health and mortality rates. That's a national thing. It's a state thing. It's a local concern that really has a lot to do with access to prenatal care, health equity issues, and all the social determinants that influence that as well. So we have some thoughts in the health department we've been working on. We had revamped in this past year our maternal and child health program. We'll talk more about that in time, but I'm really pleased with what we're doing and the services that our community partners have. So I think we'll find that there'll be even greater motivation to want to engage in programs with what currently exists to help our community members. And then one last mention, we are looking to relocate our temporary site in Cato for our WIC office. And we're really pleased. We're working with the Cato Meridian School District to co-locate there, or it's underway. We have not signed a contract yet, but we've had conversations. They've identified some space, and it'll be a great, I think, an even more welcoming and friendly space for our families as well as for our staff members. They're really a very community-oriented school, like many other school districts are. So we're pleased that we should move forward with that. Those are my updates.
Thank you. So moving to your resolutions. You have 5 resolutions. We'll start with 8H1. Authorizing public health director to fill the director of community health position within the health department. Any motion for discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
motion's on the table for discussion. I do have one question. And this is in the last resolve. It's regarding the potential for the incumbent to come back for a minimum of 140 hours of training for the new hire at an hourly rate to be determined. At this point, do you have an actual hourly rate? Can you tell us about that hourly rate, how it will be figured?
We anticipate, I'll back up. We're hoping to fill this position. I'm really pleased this has been vacant for 10 months. We actually have a couple interviews coming up, so I'm excited about that. We anticipate that the rate would be at what the incumbent's hourly rate was when they left. I did do some calculations when you mentioned this to me, Heidi. We had deliberately left this vague when we wrote it. We don't even know that and coming back to provide some orientation assistance, but it would be about $48 an hour would be what we're looking at. But that, of course, human resources will verify that. We're basing that on what the salary was of that role and the person left.
This position is full.
It is all state aid eligible.
That's
Yes.
taken out.
Yes,
That's 100%.
at 100% for them.
I'm wondering with this last resolve, and Brittany, maybe you can help me with this. With that, with the vagueness of what will happen. The issue of maybe the incumbent won't come back, or it'll be someone who steps in to work and steps in. Do we deem it important to get a specific hourly rate in there, like that 48 hours, set it as the high end limit?
As in putting like an up to
Right,
$40 an
right.
hour. You could put that in there. I don't believe Diane's on. I knew that when I was speaking with Rich, when he was having conversations with you, that it was gonna be up to the HR, and I didn't hear back on whether or not what her opinion on that was. So if the committee would want to put it up to an amount, you're more than willing to do that and then be voted on at the full ledge. But can I just add one more point in
Yes.
this last one? The last resolve indicates that the public health director would sign the contract. By all means, the ledge can authorize the public health director to do it. Typically, it's the chair of the legislature that would sign contracts with the public health director. So I don't know if you'd want to make the amendment as well to add the chair in there to sign that contract, or leave it to delegate to only her.
Well, then I'd like to propose an amendment to the resolution in the last resolve that indicates that the public health director, along with the chair of the legislature, be authorized to enter into contract with previous incumbent or other
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're boxing ourselves, and what if they don't wanna come back and you can
Yeah.
find somebody
There
else
might
to
be
say,
another
"Well, you know what, I
yeah,
think you should
yeah.
open it up so you're not boxed in."
Yeah, I agree with that.
Or other at an hourly rate not to exceed $48 per hour. And also at a rate of up to 140.
Yes,
We
so a
might have-
maximum.
We may have someone who, is willing to do this, but do this for 20 hours or 40 hours or. So I'm wondering if I can get a motion on that amendment.
Can I ask a question? So is there a timeline on this? I mean, are we looking at 6 months? Are we looking at a year? Like, what is the timeline for this? Because I'm thinking when you say 140 hours, is that going to match with what you're thinking this position is going to be for? The length of it?
Excellent question. I will admit we're using similar language to when we first requested to fill this role. And at the time, often we try to bring things before someone retires, and so we try to have that overlap happen right away. Clearly, that did not happen. I would prefer to have it stretched out over a period of time because I think it's a little intense to have someone with you for 4 weeks straight
Right.
when you're trying to learn a job. I think it would be beneficial to us that within the 12-month period of hire to have, or if we cannot extend it to the new fiscal year, through the calendar year as needed, would be
Well-
beneficial to us.
Thank you. And that's what I'm thinking, whatever we agree as a committee, putting some sort of timeline on there, whatever that looks like. Do you have a suggestion of what you'd like to see happen with that?
Yes, as needed through the calendar year.
Through the calendar year?
Yeah. That would be helpful probably, I'm not trying to shoot myself in the foot, but to a maximum of number of hours would not be an unreasonable thing, fiscally speaking.
Yeah, I like. That and extend out time, I
Yeah,
think it's.
yeah. So in other words, like if you, let's just say for February, right, you got everybody in place. You needed that person for 10 hours in February, and you need her or him in March. You could execute hours for maybe 40 hours in April. You want it to be intermittently spread out that way throughout the calendar year.
Yes.
Okay. Right, as needed.
How's that?
That makes
How's
sense.
that?
I know that's what.
It's
Nothing like the first resolution. We really should have polished this
Right.
on, but
No,
good.
it's
We're hitting the
also- I'm
bases.
thinking
This is
why
good.
The public.
Yeah.
Now we have a table,
Director
that's why we're.
Right.
I'm glad.
And the chair be authorized to enter into contract with previous incumbent or other for a maximum of 140 hours of training
Within the calendar year?
within the calendar year of the new hire at an hourly rate not to exceed $48 per hour.
Who's gonna pay for it?
It will come out of the health department budget line. Yes, we do have, because of our vacant status, we do have some funds.
It's gonna be locally tax subsidized or not?
Well, isn't it all? Right? But would this be able to be covered through state aid? Yes, because it's related to the core services. So yes,
Okay,
And it's
Mhm.
100% reimbursable, correct?
yes,
Up to.
as the formula for state aid.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Great question.
Both the positions you're saying.
Correct, because they will work, that position works wholly within state aid functioned programs.
So within their guidelines, the maximum that they're allotted for that state aid, it would be reported at the maximum. Correct. Yes.
Any other discussion on the amendment? I have a motion on the amendment
I mean,
to HH1.
I'll
Go
make a
ahead.
motion.
We have a motion
I'll se-
and a
I'll second. Yeah.
All in favor?
aye,
Any opposed? Moved? Now we need to go back and vote on the resolution H81
As amended.
as amended.
as amended. Any
I'll make a motion, yes.
Thank you.
I'll make.
Not too many of us to do that.
You're sitting here.
Did Mark
Thank you.
ever
We're all making
hop
the
on
same
or
motion,
no?
I can find the chance.
No,
No.
he's not at all, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Heidi, I can see and hear you, but I cannot get video on my computer. I'm sorry if I interrupt, but
Great, thank you. Thank you.
can you
Mark.
hear me now?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, I just can't get my video working on my computer, but I can hear the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Glad you're here. Yes. HH2 is authorizing the public health director to fill a full-time public health nurse position within the health department.
Make a motion?
Motion for discussion, a second.
Second,
Any discussion? Yes.
I guess just my question would be, clearly this is a budgeted
It is.
position, correct?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Says poison control.
Position.
All positions. I
It
can't
does look
read,
like
see my
that.
glasses.
Yeah. I need new ones myself, so I'm like, oh, but.
Say my fifth position.
It's myself.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion outside the committee? Okay. All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. HH3, authorize the director of public health to fill a senior public health educator position or a public health educator position within the health department.
Make a motion?
Thank you. A second for discussion,
second,
second by legislator Petcher. Again, this is a budgeted 2004.
Correct. This is another, it's kind of a carryover from last year vacancy. And I'm pleased to say we've had, I think the holiday time, we tried to make a point to encourage applications when people might have been thinking new year, fresh start. So we've had some applicants who are very promising apply for these positions too, but this does give us the flexibility. It is a senior position that we have budgeted for. That is our preference. But if we are not able to identify someone in that capacity, we'd like to get a public health educator. They are fairly, the educator roles, like the nursing roles and sanitarian, they're set in regulation as to qualifications. So it is particular about minimum quals for those roles.
No, it is public, is,
Correct. Correct.
Any other discussion? Discussion outside the committee? All in favor?
Motion?
Oh, motion on the table?
A second?
I thought there was one. Stephanie, I thought you did it and
We
then
did.
Hans did the second, so now it's just all.
Oh, yeah, now, you're right. You're right, I apologize.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
aye,
You hear Mark?
Do it, Mark? Couldn't hear your vote. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I voted yes.
Okay, thank you. So it passes. Page 8.4, authorizing the chairman of the legislature and the public health director to renew the contract between Finger Lakes Dog Protection Agency Inc. and the county of Cayuga. A motion, put this on the floor,
I'll make a motion.
and legislator Anna seconded that. Any discussion?
How much has this increased or changed since last contract?
This is the same rates
Same rate.
as the, yes, past contract, no change. This is a role which we utilize primarily for rabies control purposes.
Okay.
And preparation of specimens to send to.
How many shootings last year?
I will be able to tell you more. That's one of the things we're bringing, it's just a statistical report in February to this committee. We'll get it out to you ahead of time,
Okay.
so we'll show how many. And I can always let you know how much money too. We could check that in the
I was
budget
just
if you're
curious how
interested.
much this would- It's costing.
I'll get that to you before then. But it's utilized throughout the year constantly, and more in the warmer months than in the colder months.
Raccoons.
Right.
Any other discussion? Discussion outside the committee?
I find it interesting that cats are listed in there.
The what?
Cats
Biting
Oh.
stray or
under the
biting cats?
contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And seeing as how I happen to inherited a dozen cats or so, but are feral. And what do you do with them? You can't shoot them like we used to do. Okay, you're not supposed to, let's put it that way. So what do you do with them? So are we gonna have an agency that's gonna be responsible for this, or?
A countywide agency responsible for feral cats?
Apparently, it's in the contract.
If they
Word
get
cats.
rabies, we'll get them. But if they don't, we're not touching them
This
in
is
the health
just,
department.
this is just for rabies and stuff
is
testing. This
rabies
isn't like
related.
the animal control. It's just for rabies testing or
Yes.
suspicious animals where you have an animal acting inappropriately or doing something that
Correct,
looks
yeah.
weird and, okay.
That's from the health department arm of things, yes.
Legislator Vito?
Yeah, I just like to comment on what you were saying. I don't know if you're aware that the city does currently have a program in place that they've been addressing the feral cats and trying to take studies in and trying to contact people that, you know, have taken in cats. So there is a program by the city of Auburn that is in place that is working on that
So I
currently.
should bring them to Auburn.
Little box, drop them off.
But I
Well,
think,
the trouble is I can't catch most of them. They're feral.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, you know, it might be worth looking into because I don't want to guarantee this, but I don't know if it's just strictly only in the city. They, you know, it may branch out a little bit into the county. But it's definitely worth checking out because they have a whole program and a huge group of volunteers that are in place that are addressing the situation. So it just
Glad
might
to
be
hear it.
helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Is that actually, city run or volunteer run through the
It's
city?
it's volunteer run, but Counselor Cuddy is very involved in, you know, in advocating for that and helping with that group. So I think it's a combination of volunteers, community members, you know, trying to advocate, try to help for that any way they can.
So maybe a potential model for us to look at
Yeah,
on the county
Yeah.
one that.
because agreed, I mean, it's definitely, you know, a concern. And they're definitely
Throughout the
addressing
county,
it
city.
without a doubt.
They're all over my backyard.
Never knew it was an issue.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
very large issue.
You must have a very nice farmhouse that they want to come live there.
That's what,
You must have a very nice farm that they want to come live there.
they don't come, somebody drops them off,
Yeah,
because you have a farm, there was a
Yeah.
barn there. So, and then they multiply.
Yeah.
And if you can't catch them, there's very little you can do about it.
I was a recipient of a situation like that had kittens, so I had all these kittens all over outside my house, and then the mother just took them away because I called. I'm like, what do I do? How do you handle it? But
Any other discussion? Discussion outside the committee? All in favor?
I,
Right?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. And then we're jumping to HH 19. Authorizing Cayuga County Legislature and the Public Health Director to fill a full-time early intervention service coordinator position.
Just had a resignation, very recently. The person's last day was yesterday. The nice thing is that there is an early intervention service coordinator, test where the last day of sign up is today. So if anyone's listening right now and they're interested and qualified, I encourage you to sign up to take the exam. So we'll have some potential candidates permission to fill this role.
And this is also funded at 100% early intervention
This
service.
is different. This does not fall under state aid in the same way as other
Okay.
core functions, but there is state aid. It's a different formula. It is not under state grant, however. There are aspects of it that are, but these roles are more tax-paid funded, but there's a percentage.
And required by the health department to.
It's required by the county, it lands in the health department across the state.
You were children with autism, recording, like occupational therapy or speech therapy, that's the services that are
That's
provided.
exactly.
And that's throughout the county.
Throughout the county. So any adult in their child's life can make a referral to the early intervention. Could be daycare, could be parent, could be encouraged by healthcare provider for where they might identify developmental delays in any capacity, or perhaps a child born with a syndrome. And then, yes, there's occupational therapy, speech language pathology, special as appropriate, allergy as appropriate. There's a lot of services.
This position basically brings people together who they need to meet with and make sure they get the services. It's actually the
That's
liaison
exactly.
between the families and the services. being
Precisely.
provided.
Yes,
Okay.
the family liaison and coordinator services. You got it.
Any other questions or discussion?
We need a motion on the,
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we have a motion on HH 19?
I'll make-
Second?
Thank you. Having completed discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. We're gonna move along and invite up Department Head Lauren Walsh. Unless there was a negotiation back there for others to come.
Hello. Hello.
So I know I didn't have any updates on the agenda, but I did, can't take credit for making this look really pretty, but I did print out, it's a good summary as far as what the mental health department does. All the things we're involved in, not just only the clinic, but all the other projects and things that we're involved in as far as, across the county. So I did make copies for all of you. I will also email it out to anybody who's not here. But I just want to touch on a couple things in here. Besides updates, there's some stats in there from last year, related to some different programs. So you'll see, the clinic, there's an update on staffing as well as our visits, including our crisis visits that we've seen at the clinic itself. That is separate from mobile crisis. So there's an update on mobile crisis as that program just started last year in April. So you'll see, some stats related to how many visits. You can see we've done almost 150 visits, where a very small percentage of those needed a higher level of care. So we were able to deter people from going to the emergency room, or needing to use other resources by using mobile crisis itself. A big one too is we've made drastic changes to the resources at the jail and the services that we're providing there. So you'll see that that's also outlined there, including just additional resources, that is going very well. just in relationship to the 7:30 examinations, we definitely over the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in the amount of 7:30 examinations that are ordered, which are competency exams that are ordered through the court. Last year and this year were about the same. There was about 12 total ordered. However, we are seeing a higher number of people that actually are going to restoration and are found incompetent. Right now, we have 4 people, which is a lot. It's very expensive. They're all through OMH and we pay 100% of that cost, which is about somewhere between, depending on the hospital, somewhere between $1,200 and $1,300 a day. Not much we can necessarily do about that. I know at a state level, that is something that's being discussed, as far as just restoration in general and how that's being done, and if there's a different way of doing it that's more effective, including like timeframes and things. There's not necessarily a time frame on that. People could be in there for a very long time. So I just wanted to make a note of that. Different initiatives and things that we're involved in. We do children and adult SPOA, so that's any children and adult services across the whole county. Kind of interesting when you add it all up, but we, you know, on the kid side, they've received over 400 unduplicated referrals all within 2023. So that just goes to show the need for all of those services that are provided by the FAST services that we have. We're seeing more AOT AOT investigations, but also people put on AOTs, which are assisted outpatient treatment, which is ordered again, goes through the court. These are people that are really high utilizers. They have to meet a lot of certain criteria, which I included the criteria in here so that you guys could also see that as well. And then just different, we got a very large SAMHSA grant at the very end of last year. That's a $4 million grant. And I could talk about that for a long time, but it's really about working with our rural school districts to provide DBT in schools. So that's dialectical behavior therapy within those school districts. So we have Moravia, Cato, and Union Springs that all signed letter of commitment for that grant. We actually recently just found out, so we had applied for the SAMHSA grant, but we also applied for, along with Moravia School District, for a grant, and it was to do the same thing within their school district. We just heard that we will be receiving that grant, so you'll see a resolution come forward to accept that grant money. So we won't use the SAMHSA money for that. We'll use the school grant for that, and we are hoping to include weed sport in on the SAMHSA grant, because we're waiting for our OMH license, but we're gonna be putting a satellite office in weed sport school. We have one in Union Springs. We will have one in weed sport. We're just waiting for OMH's approval, and that's gonna start kind of slow. So it'll be about a half a day a week. Union Springs is a full day a week. We're hoping to expand that. And we just need to make sure we have enough staffing to do all the things that we'll be doing for all of the grants. There's a pretty long Healing Cayuga update. That's all the things that came from the Healing Community Study that we've continued, but also we had a Department of Justice grant as well that helped continue some of that and do more work in the rural communities as well. One of the most important, I think, stats is that overdoses and fatalities are to a pre-COVID level at this point in our county, which is not a trend that people are seeing elsewhere. So I think that's something that really goes to all the initiatives that came from Healing Community Study that we've been able to also continue and fund through some of the opioid settlement funds and the DJA grant. It's a great thing.
That's a good.
Yes, that's a great thing. Because during COVID, I mean, we just saw this, it just increased majorly during COVID, yes. I think that's mainly the highlights in there, other than just one thing to note is that we are down 4 social work positions. 2 of those positions are from the SAMHSA grant. So we had funded 2 full-time social worker positions within that grant so that we could move cases from the therapists who would be going to the schools to the therapists that would be hired. And then we've recently had few therapists leave for other opportunities. We recently just had someone who's been with us for a long time and she just left. So that's one of the resolutions is to fill that position. But obviously we need social workers in order to be able to do all this great work in all the schools. So that's a concern of mine. And because we have not received any applications in a very long time. I know we had one position open for a while and it was about a year before we filled that one. so. I'm shrinking.
Yeah, that is the shrinking chair. Any interns at this point?
Yeah, we say yes to every intern that we possibly can.
We do have some on board.
We do, a couple of them will graduate till August, so we're still a ways out from that. But we always say yes to interns. We've posted on the college's sites. It's just a hard time for workforce across, especially social workers too, across the board, just statewide. So I don't know, I have some ideas, so I'm sure we'll have conversations about that, but, that's where we're kind of at when it comes to those positions.
That was gonna be my question, is in your mind, what do you think, I know it is cross the country, workforce development is, just even people having the skill sets, but trying to hire people is very difficult, but here and what you're seeing, what do you think the barrier is of getting even an application?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I think we try to be as flexible as we can, but we can't necessarily compete with the flexibilities of people who are doing only telehealth from home, and getting paid very good money to do that. Private practice, people are moving into private practices a lot more now, because it is that easy to do, doing telehealth. I think the salary, I think, comparable to what people can make working at home. I think that's something to look at. But we try to be as flexible as we can. We do have the hybrid schedule that we allow people to work. We're open till 6 p.m. So we try to, shift schedules around and try to work around that as best we can. So we're trying to do anything that we can at the clinic to make it, as flexible as we can,
COVID definitely did not help with that.
No, that actually helped create the best. So
Exactly, yeah.
Are the caseloads manageable?
So the caseloads are about an average of 90 people per therapist. So I would say that's a little on the higher end. I think 80, a little bit better as far as managing a caseload. If we had to have an average of 80 across the board, I think that would be really doable for our therapists.
Are they all coordinated in a certain area? So for example, a social worker, if they had 80 or 90 cases, would that be 80 or 90 cases somebody's assigned to like the city of Auburn or?
No.
No.
No, so we are open access clinic. So how we do it is all centralized scheduling. So therapists have an hour in their day that's scheduled for walk-ins. So that could mean a walk-in intake or it could mean a walk-in crisis. Somebody comes in the door, they go right to the office, they fill out some paperwork, they see a therapist right then and there, and that therapist will be the therapist assigned to them for I would say like the majority amount of the time. So that OMH is really about like the first person you see, if you could keep them, they don't have to retell their story over and over again to more therapists, but so no, not necessarily. We do try to play off of the therapist strengths though, like trying to get certain clients, if we need to transfer them, we will.
Okay,
If it makes more sense to the client, it's better fit for them.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
But yeah, feel free to read through it, and obviously, our doors are open for if anybody would like to come for a visit and get a little tour and talk more about any of that, be open for that, yeah. Yep.
And you have two resolutions, yes. And we're looking at HH 11. Authorizing the filling of a full-time staff social worker position at the Community Mental Health Center. I get a motion
Mention.
and a second.
So,
Any discussion? This is a fill and it's an anticipated vacancy while you also have other vacancies.
Yeah, this person, actually, her last day was the 9th, so yes, we have this right off of the other ones we have.
And fully budgeted.
Yep.
Any other questions, discussions? Questions outside the committee? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. HH 12. Another filling of one part-time compliance officer position with Cayuga Mental Health Center. I get a motion to put it on the table,
Move it.
moved by legislator Fetcher, second by legislator Anna. My question is the compliance officer, this is, part-time?
Yeah, so I can give a little history.
Okay.
We had a full-time compliance officer for the last 14 years, based off of it was a not such a great Medicaid audit that happened that I think the position came out of. Where I think we were fined quite a bit of money. That's where the compliance officer was originally created. So the person that was the compliance officer was the deputy director for the last 2 years. She's retiring. The plan is that you would only need a part-time compliance officer because she would be the person that's doing the work. Where she's been doing it for 14 years and knows it very, very well. So that's why we're asking for a part-time instead of a full-time. The deputy will no longer be responsible for the compliance. Like she kind of took that into the deputy position, but now that we'll be hiring a new deputy because she's retiring, she will resume and continue all the compliance activities and the deputy would not.
So we're gaining one employee then, part-time.
Part-time, yes. It is budgeted. We did talk about that in our budget discussions as well.
And it's a part-time 17 and a half hours at an hourly rate.
Yes, and that hourly rate was based on the salary
Salary
of
of the accountant.
Yep.
Any other questions, discussions?
Was the motion made? And sorry if I missed it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And then one comment I have, if that's acceptable to you, is that I received the ATF from Diane and the rate needs to be changed from 42.37 to 43.28. $3.28, if that amendment can be made.
I propose an amendment in the second resolve. The hourly rate of $42.37 be changed to $43.28. Can I get a motion on that amendment?
I make motion to amend.
Second.
And we have a second from legislator Anna. Any discussion about the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
It passes. So now we will move to vote on the HH 12 as amended.
Make a motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 no,
We hear your vote, Mark.
Aye.
Thank you. Move.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your.
Told me that, so the- I thought that we had a minute.
Come on up. This is Department Head Christine Bianco.
Hello.
Social Services.
I have a bunch.
Do you have any updates?
Yep, I apologize for not having a report in by the deadline. I will have something prepared for the packet for next month. I did have just a few things to kind of go over and talk about a little bit. About DSS, just kind of acclimate you to some of the stuff that we do. I thought that would be maybe helpful. So the Department of Social Services work, as you know, is highly regulated by the state and the federal government. Much of the work that we do is mandated and required. Different reimbursements, complicated reimbursement stream coming in from different sources. But essentially, we're required to provide a lot of different programs and supports to folks that are eligible in Cayuga County. DSS essentially has two branches. One of the branches is on the temporary assistance side. Those are benefits like SNAP, Medicaid, temporary assistance, emergency assistance. The other side of DSS is
the Children and Family Services side that provides adult protective services, child protective services, foster care supports, adoption, and preventive services for families. A large number of residents of Cayuga County receive services from us. Right now, about 4,400 households receive SNAP benefits. It's a pretty large number of folks. Nearly 5,000 individuals receive Medicaid benefits from us. And on the other side, about 1,200 reports of child abuse or maltreatment are investigated by caseworkers right here in Cayuga County every year.
How many? Did you say?
Over 1,200
Are investigated.
are investigated, yeah. Right now, there's about 100 children that are placed in foster care with us in Cayuga County because they're not safe to be with the caregivers that they were with, and we're working hard to work towards reunification with those families, or working to achieve permanency in some other way through maybe a relative getting custody or adoption. We have about a little bit under 150 budgeted positions in DSS, take up the entire third floor, fourth floor, most of the second floor. We also have some folks in the basement of this office building. So a lot of folks here doing a lot of different things every day. Definitely meaningful work, challenging work, difficult work. I would say our top challenges over the past few years have definitely been around workforce. We talked about. We're not alone in that. Other counties are struggling as well. Keeping positions filled, getting people to even come in to take positions. I'm here pretty much every month asking for multiple positions to be given permission to fill. One of the top challenging ones is definitely caseworkers on the services side. Just like Lauren said, I mean, we are competing with other voluntary agencies that could pay more money. And just, I think honestly, it's the difficult work, the nature of the work. There's a lot of openings in other places, and sometimes people are just burned out by the work that we do here. So definitely challenging because we continue to have to investigate all those reports and meet the requirements the state has set. And every year it's more and more, it feels like that we're required to do and document and report back to them and, audit up our work and things like that. So definitely challenging. But I would be happy to meet with any of you, any of the legislators really, if you want to come and talk to me about the services we provide, how we do our work, how we kind of fit into the whole system of care here in Cayuga County, and just get in touch if you would be interested.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. We have several resolutions for us tonight. And we'll start with HH5, amending the Department of Social Services 2024 budget to accept funds from New York State in the form of Safe Harbor, New York, and to contract with Booker T. Washington Community Center, Inc. for provision of the Safe Harbor services. Do I have a motion? Put this on the table. And a second. Discussion. So this is receipt of $30,000 fund, same as last year.
Yep, it's actually a little bit less money than last year, but it is still coming through the same program through Safe Harbor, and we would like to continue to contract with Booker T. They provide a lot of education to folks in the schools and law enforcement around the issue of sexually exploited children through trafficking, and getting information out there of the services that are available to help support anybody that's finds himself in that situation. So
That's what Safe Harbor is, right?
Safe Harbor Kids.
Okay.
Yeah. And really they can talk to anyone that, calls up and is saying that they're in a vulnerable situation and try to help them work through where they can go, where they can get, help and support.
In any area, not just specifically here that was listed. Other things you said.
Any other discussion or questions? Any discussion outside the committee? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So moved. And we have contracts. Authorizing the chair, this is HH6, authorizing the chairman of the legislature and the commissioner of social services to enter into contract with Cayuga Centers for Family Preservation Program, Family Support Program, Enhanced Foster Parent Support Program, and MST. A motion to put it on the table?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion.
What is MST?
We talked a little bit about these.
Yeah,
So
please.
this is a big contract that we have with Cayuga Centers that for a number of different programs. So all of these programs are family-based programs. Family preservation program is is the most intensive home-based service that we offer to families whose children are at risk of coming into care. It's a program that really targets the families that are working with the services folks in child protective services. So if we're working with a family and we believe the child's really at risk of coming into foster care because of something that's going on, we can make a referral to this program. They work with a small caseload of families and do very intensive in the house work around kind of whatever it takes really to kind of look at the barriers to the child being able to stay home and get the services and supports in place that they need for us hopefully to be able to leave the child there so they don't have to come into foster care. We've had this contract and this program in place for a long time. I think it's very successful. It's pretty intensive. It's a short-term duration of only about 4 to 6 weeks per family. So we are able to serve quite a few families with it over the year. The next one, family support, is a little bit like of a step down from family preservation. Maybe you don't need that intensive level of every day seeing a worker in your home. Maybe it just needs to be a couple days a week that they come in and work on similar issues, parenting, child's behavior, getting folks linked up to the supports in the community through mental health, substance use, things like that. Also, again, it's a short duration, but a little bit longer. So it's like spread out for a period of a few months, I think about up to 12 weeks.
So I can talk more offline when I come to meet with the HR department, but when you say, can you just give an example of like the intense type of action that might have to take place under the preservation kind of aspect? Like, just give an example. You don't have to go in full detail, but like, what would that look like?
Yep. So let me think of a good one. So if somebody has a baby and they come home from the hospital, but they maybe have had child protective reports in the past for another child, and we know that they've made some bad decisions or some things have happened where that child ended up being injured or they had trouble with feeding that child and knowing how to like proper nutrition for a newborn. We'll make a referral to this program and they'll go right in and, try to like sit with them, spend time with them. They can be there for hours a day trying to make sure they understand like, this is how you do the formula. This is how you change the baby. This is how you feed the baby. This is how you sleep for the baby.
Okay.
Here's how you read the instructions for any medication or, things that the baby needs that came home from the hospital. It can also be like for an older child, if there was something that happened that maybe the child was injured in the house, had a mark, a bruise from being maybe hit, parent was frustrated, but it doesn't rise to the level that we think that the child is unsafe and can't stay there. It's about like helping them work on communication, better strategies for discipline, not using excessive corporal punishment, that kind of a thing.
Okay, thank you.
Is this the same rates as last year's?
So these contracts in total, the actual contract has not gone up at all. It's staying flat.
States.
The interesting thing about the budget on this, it's the $550,000 not to exceed. Over the last couple of years, we've worked hard with Cayuga Centers because they are able to bill Medicaid for certain services. And it's actually costing us less money to provide the same services in the county because now they've really kind of honed in on how they can bill Medicaid. I'm shrinking. It's going. End up on the floor. So I think that we're actually getting the same services for less money. Because they're billing Medicaid and they're becoming pretty proficient at doing that and figuring out, what information they need to submit. To
That's
get
on
that.
top of the state 62%. Or is that all included?
So, no, yeah, that's on top of the, we'll
Top
get
of the
62% of the 550.
And what is MST?
So MST is a program that is specific to working with adolescents that have challenging behavior at home, school, or community. So the older kids. Again, it's a therapeutic intervention, home-based, working with the parent and the child.
Validated research-based.
Yep.
Program.
Evidence-based, yep.
Systemic therapy.
Yep.
By 60.
And then enhanced foster care support is, a lot of times the children that come into foster care have been through a lot. There's a lot of trauma. They have a lot of behavior issues, and challenges for the foster parents. And we've seen that sometimes foster parents really, they need a lot of support and just a lot of support in taking care of the children that come into their home. And this program is something that we developed to help give them that support. And so it puts a therapist in the house, someone they can reach out to if there's a crisis, with the child, somebody that they can call to kind of vent, trying to brainstorm, kind of strategize, and then also work with the child too on some of the behavior stuff. So layered on top of maybe the other services that the child gets, it's somebody that's really for the foster parent to help support them through this placement, give them somebody to call that is, has them on their caseload, that they can talk to, that gets to know them and the child. We think that it's a good thing that foster parents ask for it. They like it. And honestly, they need it.
Thank you for all of those descriptions and that question.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. And any discussion, questions outside the committee? All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Did you hear we're voting, Mark?
He got off his now.
Oh, you did? Okay. Any opposed? So moved. H7, authorizing the chairman of the legislature and the Commissioner of Social Services to enter into contract with Children's Home of Wyoming Conference for the recruitment, training, and retention of foster parents. Motion, put it on the table.
Move it.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? I'm curious about how many foster care, how much recruitment and training and retention occurs through the program.
So we have 2 foster care specialists that are embedded right in our area on the 4th floor, and then 1 foster care support specialist. So they are responsible for providing the training classes to anybody that comes to us that says they want to be a foster parent for Cayuga County. So they have specific training that they have that's a series of classes, discussions, get-togethers with other families where they really learn about what it's like to, in theory, take care of a foster child that comes their way. A lot of information about trauma, a lot of information about reunification, and really to help them hopefully have a good understanding of what it's going to be like when they take in a child. So these 2 workers, they prepare for those trainings. They put out the advertisements for those trainings, talk to people that call us and say that they want to be considered. And then, we hold 2 to 3 training classes a year of families. And honestly, sometimes we start out with 15 families and then it drops down because I think that's not a bad thing. And people are hearing what it's like and then sort of self-doubt out because they don't think that that's something that they're going to be able to handle. Maybe they become concerned about what it would be like as far as the dynamic with their own children that they already have in the house. So it's a way for them to sort of assess whether or not this is going to be a good match for them. So hopefully when it comes down to the end of the training class, the folks that we're left with are in a good place to be able to foster for us. So part of what they do, these workers do is after they get through the class, there's a whole application process and a lot of paperwork that has to be done, fingerprinting, inputting information to the computer. Then they have to go to the home. They have to see the home regularly, address any sort of concerns that happen with children, and also a big part of their job is to find the homes that will take the kids that come into foster care. Or find the homes that are going to take kids into respite, because our foster homes also do respite for us. The third worker is the foster care support specialist. What we found was there was a lot of kind of driving around and things that need to be done when kids are first placed in foster care. And a lot of that was falling on the caseworkers or these other recruitment specialists. And so this is a person that really kind of just gets out there and does whatever needs to be done. Brings, paperwork around that needs to be filled out, goes to the school, drop off papers to get the kids enrolled in school. Maybe it's even babysitting for the foster parent until they get some daycare set up. So it's really to help the foster parents. So I would love to say that I think that we do a great job with recruiting enough. We always need more foster homes. Because more and more kids come into foster care, and luckily we have a lot of children that are taken in by relatives and then returned back home to their parents. And if they're not able to be returned home, they can often stay with the relatives through custody. And we also have a lot of foster parents that become permanent resources for the foster kids. So that's why we need a constant kind of influx of new foster parents to take care of, the new kids that are coming into foster care. So it's a work in progress, and we're always looking for more.
Right. And of course, the Children's Home of Wyoming Conference is well known for its work and validation. So it's, I think it's important. It shows that we're working diligently for a real quality of care once we have recruited and trained and developed a foster care home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about giving the foster parents the supports they need. The kids will stay at that level of care if they're getting more of what they need from us as a department. And if we have staff that's able to talk to them and talk them through situations, if they don't have that support, they're going to leave and go somewhere else where they can get it. Yeah. So we really have tried to build that support and that partnership with them.
Any other questions, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Page 8. This is authorizing the legislature to create and the Social Services Commissioner to fill a paralegal specialist, grade 16 position in the Department of Social Services. Well, first of all, a motion to put this on the table.
I'll second.
So my first question is this a create and fill or a fill?
This is a create and fill.
Okay.
So this is a position that we had not had in the budget before the 2024 budget passed. We had talked at our budget talks about the need for another paralegal in DSS. Really, it was a conversation we had with the legal department. I mean, they really helped us push for this and said that we needed it based on, what they were seeing around the work when they had to step in to help us because of our shortage of DSS attorneys. So we did put that in the budget. So our actual employee count, budgeted position count did not go up because we had 2 part-time positions that we abolished. It was a staff development supervisor part-time position and also a residential safety inspector position that we abolished. So those 2, it was a wash, or our employee count did not go up. But it is a creation of a position that we didn't have in 2023.
Do you feel like a paralegal fill will be easier than an attorney?
Goodness, I hope so.
Okay.
We have been very, for those who have been hearing up here every month, we've been very challenged with certain key positions in DSS. The attorneys are on one of them. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get a paralegal to come in and help. I think there's a lot of work that we have with those, when we have 100 kids in foster care, there's a lot of court paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork through the year for each of the cases that we have. There's a lot of intense paperwork at the beginning of a case when we go over to court and have to prepare petitions and, go into court for trials. hearings. And I think that we have one paralegal now, and she does a great job. But there's a lot more that I think a second paralegal will be able to do to help us be the most efficient and honestly help support the staff that are doing our work right now. We only have one,
Right.
DSS attorney, a supervising social service attorney that we just hired around Christmas, so he's very new to us. And the rest of our work is being done by the county attorney's office, spread out among the staff there, and a few attorneys that are local that we've been able to contract with. We had asked for permission to contract with attorneys to help meet the needs of our legal needs, and we were given permission to do that last year. So it's kind of keeping track of all of that stuff. And I think a second paralegal is really going to help with the organization, the efficiencies, and just help take some of the stuff away from the attorneys that are helping us out right now.
Any other questions, discussions? Brittany, remind me, did we motion to put this on the
Yes.
table? Okay. Any discussion from members outside? So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Consider maybe,
I'm giving you time. Take your time.
no,
So we have
Carrie.
Gary. I think a minute was no.
Yeah. Yeah, what Carrie?
That was, someone just said to stay with us.
Nine, nice, cool.
What's the name?
Yes.
Okay, so we move to HH10, granting permission to the Commissioner of Social Services to fill vacant positions within the Department of Social Services that previous authorization expired on 12/31/23. This is basically, our business as usual to move these again to allow the commissioner to move forward, keep them on the radar for filling. Motion, put it on the table.
Motion.
second,
Okay, so 4 caseworkers, so that hasn't changed. We are still,
Yes, we still have a number of vacancies with
Yeah.
caseworker positions. Like I said, we pulled the one resolution because somebody decided to stick with us. We went up to 5, so we're at 4. And then the two attorneys.
These are open vacant positions.
Yes.
these are fills.
If you hire 2 more attorneys, does that mean we stop outsourcing?
Pardon me?
If we hire 2 new attorneys for social service, stop outsourcing?
We stop
Well, you're
outsourcing.
using outsourcing attorneys right now. Is
Yeah.
that going to keep things going out?
If we have a supervising social services attorney and 2 DSS attorneys full-time, I think we can manage the work. I mean, not to say that we haven't, like, sometimes asked, we consult with the county attorney's office, and sometimes they've stepped in on things to help, but not the way we're doing right now. Not at all like we're doing right now.
Just overwhelmed.
It's, yeah. There's no way that we were able to do it with 0. Now we have one that just started, and he does have experience in, working for another department, so that's good. He's coming in with experience, but we definitely need more. We do have an interview that we're setting up. I don't want to jinx it, but we do have someone that has applied, and we're going to be interviewing that person, hopefully next week.
Right. Maybe it'll start again.
Yeah.
Any other discussion, questions? Questions, discussions outside the committee? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? So moved.
So far, the New Year's proving to be well with hiring or at least getting interviews. People with all the
Yes.
seems like.
One next up in order.
It's on the back.
It
It's,
should be in one.
it's on the back of 10. If you're looking
Oh, I
for,
see.
if you're looking for, yep, it's actually on the back of the packet part of 10. Look. Here's-
Oh, we're at 15, so we are moving on.
We were at 10, so we're at 15. 15 is the next.
Okay,
Do you have?
yep,
Okay.
sorry, I was
Okay.
looking for 11.
That's okay.
This is a resolution authorizing the chairman of the legislature, should be saying chairwoman of the legislature and the commissioner of social services to enter into a contract with Cayuga Centers for the provision of services for restorative case management. A motion to put this on the table.
Am I motion?
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you want to hear a little about this?
Yeah,
So we call this RCM, Restorative Case Management Services, contract with Cayuga Centers. It is targeting youth who are adolescents who are having struggles in community at home. It's a case management program, and it really is to help keep them out of really penetrating the court system, and coming before court and being placed as a juvenile delinquent or having to go to detention because of behavior becoming so concerning in the community that it is, unsafe. So I think great program. We've had good success with it. It serves a lot of youth. I can't tell you the exact number, but they have a caseload of, I think maybe about 20, I would say between 20 and 23, maybe kids at a time. And, visit with them, kind of wherever they are. If they're at home, if they're, kind of bunking at a friend's house and trying to get them back home, they'll meet with them there, meet with them at the school at times. Case management program.
natural settings based
Mhm.
work.
It's really like the
Well,
old
with
pins,
adolescents, yeah.
Heidi, the old pins
Mhm.
kind of case management.
Yeah.
But now, it's kind of retooled as this restorative case management and really essentially the same thing. It's case management out in the community. A lot of work with the children themselves.
So, quick question. Pins used to come through. Is this through family court? Is this through the school system? How do you initiate your contact with the adolescent?
So this is like the diversion part of PINS.
Okay.
So this is the home-based services that have been offered as PINS diversion when somebody went to probation.
They still file a petition for it then?
No.
No?
No, it's really our community-based services that's an alternative to a PINS. So instead of kind of penetrating that system by, getting into family court and going into before the judge for the behavior, we're backing it up and providing that service before we even get there so that they don't have to come before a judge.
Do you find this more successful? Kind of the same, basically the same thing under a new name or?
It's still a case management program. It's provided by a different voluntary agency than had provided that PINS diversion before. And that way it's the same. I think that what's successful is we don't have all these kids kind of filing into court, because what we found before was when you get a child that's struggling with certain behaviors before the judge, a lot of times the judge would say, you can't do this anymore. Like, and if you do this, then I'm going to do something. And then the judge sort of had to stand by his word. And what we were seeing was a lot of kids coming into foster care, kind of for those situations where we thought the department felt there were still some things that we could try service provision wise to try to forestall a foster care placement. So, the PINS has really transformed. We don't have children coming into foster care anymore for PINS. We used to have a lot of children in foster care for PINS behavior. Now it's really community-based supports, providing them with case management supports, getting them linked up to different, service providers that will help them work on the behavior. And, if it needs to, it needs to go to a higher level, we can still get there, but we don't have that kind of stuff happening
And it's
anymore.
provided throughout the county.
It's all over the county.
What's that an acronym for?
Pardon me?
What's that an acronym for?
PINS, PINS is person in need of supervision.
Oh.
And JD is juvenile delinquent.
This certainly reduces the trauma of a young person being introduced to the justice system by a visit with a probation officer when, they were first, filed with a PINS complaint. So it takes that piece away as well. Research shows that the more that happens, or that a youth just becomes accustomed to and in and out of any form of justice systems, the
Mhm.
more they're gonna stay in the justice
Mhm.
system. So it circumvents that right up front.
Mhm. Yeah, and things have really transformed with the department's ability to place a child with difficult behaviors in a residential setting. Like we used to be able to make decisions essentially, like as a team here at DSS, what to place a child in really what's one of the most highest level of care, like a residential treatment center, like a place like Hillside or Elmcrest. We can't do that anymore. We can, but the state has a lot more oversight and we have to, it's all vetted through them. So through this QRTP process where there's a qualified professional that has to kind of look at it from their lens of being unbiased and make a decision, does this child essentially need this level of care or not? It's not all up to us anymore. So luckily, we don't have a lot of kids in residential anymore. It's very expensive to place children in residential and doesn't have the best outcomes. It's not the best place for kids to be. So we worked hard on that.
Any other questions, discussions? Any questions, discussions outside the committee? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Authorizing the chairwoman of the legislature and the commissioner of social services to contract with Cayuga Seneca Action Agency, Inc. for the provision of residential domestic violence services for a 5-year period commencing 1/1/24 through 12/31/28.
Make a motion?
Thank you. Second?
Also.
So these are, this is a contract that we've done before
This is a
many
contract.
times through Cayuga Seneca, actually, for many, many years.
To meet the needs
Agency
of
with
folks that are in need of
expertise.
residential domestic violence services. We're required to do this. It's mandated at the department. Provide the service or, contract with someone to provide the service. And the rate is set by the state. We don't set the rate. A lot of the folks that come into the shelter through Cayuga Seneca do apply for assistance through the department. So there is some reimbursement on the folks that fill out applications and qualify for that, for the benefits. So it's, we do get some reimbursement.
Any other questions, discussions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I didn't hear you. Is it a thinking? Like you said?
I didn't say anything. so-
Yeah, I said, I'll give you some time if you're thinking. Is it
No, I'm
opposed?
just wondering if we're making any progress.
We're making any progress with the,
Yeah, any of this, just, when I first started 12 years ago, I'm hearing the same thing right now. It's at the best we're treading water, I think. Same thing over and over and over. It just,
yeah, I mean, I think is specifically for the domestic violence. I think, yeah, there's still situations where domestic violence happens in Cayuga County. There's still, folks in partnerships that lead to someone being in an unsafe situation and, they do seek services to be in a shelter, to be safe. That did happen 12 years ago. I was here then, I've worked for the DSS for over 30 years. And you're right, a lot of these same services are being provided for similar situations. I think, as far as,
I was a cop for 20 years. A lot of this is generational. It's sad, it's tragic, but a lot is generational. And I think if we had the answers, we wouldn't be sitting here at the committee figuring out, funding for these projects or for shelters and stuff. But you see the same thing where 20 years of it, I watched where I dealt with families where it was I dealt with their parents and then I dealt with their kids and it's a continual rotation. It's tragic and sad. And the thing is education and helping try to get to the children and teens and have these interventions is the only hope of us trying to break that generational change, just make generational change. And it's got to start somewhere, you just can't sit back and say, okay, I hope things change because they're just not going to change. And I've been to these houses, as a cop, I've seen it. And really, I don't have the answers, but I know I can tell you right now, the police, social services, there's programs out there and they do work if people want to change. It's just a matter of getting to them, educating them and helping them, giving them the tools. And I think today, as we look at some of these resolutions, about providing the tools for social services that provide tools for families so that they want change. And I think that's part of what we can do here.
And just piggybacking on what you said, whereas it can get better, and I'm sure it will get better over the years, it's still gonna always be there. There's still gonna be some sort of domestic violence or some sort of things happening. It's unavoidable for the reasons that you just said. People have to want to change.
That's my opinion, yes.
So we keep trying, we're not giving up.
Keep going.
Is that a yes, no? For the
Indifferent.
record, just for the record,
I'll say no.
it passes.
Carried, yeah.
HH 17, authorizing the chairwoman of the legislature and the Commissioner of Social Services to enter into a contract with Chapel House, which is a temporary homeless shelter for men, another perennial issue. Motion, put it on the table. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions? Chapel House right now has how many beds? We know they could be improving some of it.
So this is the Franklin Street House. 15, I believe. Which some of those are taken up by veterans because they also contract for veteran placements. So we don't always have, we almost never have 15 beds filled with DSS clients at Chapel House because of the veterans that are there.
Where are we sending the Chapel?
How long do we have? To talk about this issue.
We're still doing it.
Yeah, I could talk for a long time
No,
about this,
you don't have to.
Yeah. but we have,
Hopefully we can resolve some of them.
yes, we're working towards that. I could talk forever about that. But this is 15 beds, for us to have a place to put, up to 15 people, that we're serving. We have also, Chapel House also has a site at 190, 192 Grand Avenue that, is called the Ramley Emergency Shelter. So there are, 16 beds there, for individuals. So that's about 31 beds that we have that can try to meet some of those needs. We also have some, we have the ability to refer people to rescue missions, Merriman, program for families, only up to 8 families. So the rest of them, to answer your question, are placed in various hotels within the county, city, outside the city. Some of them are pretty close to that. So this is kind of creeping up to that rate. This is a little bit
Some is higher
above.
than that, right?
Hmm?
Some is higher than that, isn't it?
Yeah, some of them are higher than
Yeah,
that.
I remember you
Yep,
reporting on that.
about 110.
Yep.
I think one going up to 110.
Yeah.
One of the hotels without, this includes case management. So that's good. So they're getting the case management and the supervision and the supports built into the men's shelter, which is one of the things that's sorely lacking at the hotels. There isn't that oversight. There isn't that on-site staff all the time.
This is
Yeah, so we are obligated to, when someone applies and says that they're in need of emergency housing, if they qualify for that, then we are obligated to place them somewhere. Ideally, if we get to our plan that we're wanting to, and the Housing Visions is successful with getting the approval and the funding for expanding the shelter on Grand Avenue, that would be 80 beds. So way better provision of service for 80 people that we're serving. And we have more than that. Right now, we're serving about, we have about 110 individuals that we're housing and about 30 families. And one of the things that I'm working on providing to you guys for next month is to give you a snapshot of how that's gone up over time. I did a presentation for the planning board, the city that was part of the whole expansion of the shelter on Grand Ave, and I had some PowerPoints that I can give you to show you like how things have changed
Thank you.
over 5 years with the number of people that were housing. There's a whole lot of reasons why.
Questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah, I,
So moved. And HH 18, this is also an annual contract program authorizing the chairwoman of the legislature and the Commissioner of Social Services to enter into contracts for daycare services. Motion on the table. Second,
again,
got a long list of opportunities for the daycare needs.
So again, this is required to provide subsidy, daycare subsidy for eligible county residents. And this is a list of the places that we currently have children placed for folks that are receiving subsidy. The good thing about this is we do receive federal money through our daycare block grant that so far has been able to meet the needs of the folks that are applying for subsidy here. The rates that we are paying have gone up, mandated by the government. And if we don't get more money in the block grant, pretty soon we're gonna have trouble, because we actually had some rollovers. We didn't use our money for years, all of our money, and we've been able to build up a good amount of surplus. But we're gonna wipe that out, with the rates going up. So I'm hoping that the state is hearing the concerns of the counties and is going to be increasing the daycare block grant for, next year.
Mandated by the state of New York. It's really going to.
Yeah, sir. Yes.
And do you know right now what the fair market rate is for childcare?
It depends on the age of the child. So there's a whole
There, yeah.
category of, age ranges
Yep.
that go up. And whether the child is a part-time participant at the daycare or a full-time participant in daycare. So it really does vary based on
Is-
center, home-based daycare.
Is Booker T. Washington not considered a daycare? I don't see that on the list.
So I do, their aftercare program and things like that. So I think they are licensed to be a childcare provider.
I just was curious why they weren't on the list and
I
identified here.
think the list is only where people are currently going, right? So where they apply, it's on the list. It's not a list of approved. Is this a list of approved agencies or is it a list for children?
No,
now
this
where
is-
Parents apply and they get money back.
This is a list of the folks that we have now.
Right, approved.
And part of this is any other as needed. So there could be a different daycare facility that takes in a child that receives a subsidy, and we would be able to do the contract with them as well. So this gives permission for that to happen, and it will. Some of these will drop off, some more people will add in. I don't know why Booker T's not on there.
Yeah,
That's a
I was
good,
just
that's a good
curious
question.
as to why BTW is not here.
And if I heard you correctly, this is fully reimbursed by the state at this time through the block grant.
Okay.
However, the funding has changed and the mandates, the costs have gone up, so that will not continue unless the state.
May not continue depending on how many applicants we get.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Brenda, you're always patient, Brenda and Deborah.
You should ask the first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Switch up this way.
the order. Thank you. Hello.
So I want to just, I'm gonna keep this brief. You've gone through the bigger departments. Our Office for the Aging is, started under the Older Americans Act, as a result of the Older Americans Act. And New York State chose to implement that through county department offices for the aging in every county in the state. And so we have been, we started out in the basement here at the county office building with one full-time director and a part-time person. We have grown now to 19 staff. 7 of them are part-time and the rest are full-time. 5 of the part-time staff are our nutrition site managers, because one of our biggest programs is our meal program. And we outgrew the space in the basement a long time ago and fairly recently moved all of our staff into the Boyle Senior Apartments building across the street. And so that's been a good thing to get us all in one building together. We do have numerous programs and services that we provide with our pretty, I always say we're small but mighty. We do a lot of different things with a pretty small group of staff. And most of our funding does come from the federal and the state through the New York State Office for the Aging. And then the money that the county put in is primarily the required matching funds to get those federal and state dollars. Just give you a little bit of background on kind of how we started and how we're funded. And then I'm going to, at each of the meetings, talk a little bit about some of our different programs. I wanted to put it in writing here for your reference. And I know by this point in the meeting, you're probably reaching some overload point. So there's some information here in the report. So I guess I will start maybe by asking you, or just summarizing very briefly, the different points in there. I talk about our recovery from the apartment fire that happened above our office about 6 weeks ago. And we are still working, and Brittany's been helping me look at this heating issue. We have been able to address that as an immediate issue, but we're working on some ways to get it resolved long-term. Our meal program is mentioned there because we do have a brand new meal vendor trio. That was a huge change for us. We had the same vendor for over 10 years, I think, prior to that. And we had a very short time to find a new vendor, a new location for our volunteers. That actually, the location for the volunteers actually changed, I think, from the last meeting to this meeting, kind of a last minute thing. But we do now have a nice location for the volunteers, and we've been setting that up with equipment and stuff. We did, of course, have to work very hard to get that contract done with the new entity for the meals. There was a lot of work to make that happen, you know, any new contract, a lot of details to work out. So appreciate Rich and Nina's work on that. We have a new, we went without a fiscal person. We did basically like a 16-month search for a person for our fiscal position. Our budget's about 2 million. With all the programs and services that we do, it's pretty complex New York State requirements for reporting, and a lot of dollars and cents to follow. And so we were finally able to fill the position in October, and there's some significant backlog of work being done. But I want to say that the person that we hired is phenomenal, and if she can get through this, she can get through anything, I think, because it's quite a big task to learn all our programs and services, the county systems, the state systems, and do a backlog of 10 months of work. We do have a temporary person who's been helping us out, but she's been able to do the essentials, but not been able to do everything. We do have aides that we contract with. That's one of our meal program and the aid program are 2 of the primary subcontracting agencies that we work with. We have 5 different aid agencies we work with, but the new thing this year was that we were able to work with an agency to have an aid come, 2 aides that work directly out of our office. So they come in, we do their scheduling, we talk with them, we guide them through any problems they're having in their home when they go out and do the client work with those individuals in their home, assisting them, and work with our 2 case managers to help make sure that if there are additional needs, that those are shared with the case managers for follow-up. The biggest benefit to that, and I just actually was able to look at these numbers today, there's a great shortage of aides available all over the state and country, but the problem here, and particularly in the rural areas where we're not able to get any aides, we have increased our service in the rural areas significantly, and we've increased our PCA 2 level aides, which is the ones that they can do hands-on care, helping people. We could not get much of that service at all. Having these aides in our office allows us to provide that service now. So that's been a significant improvement. HICAP is our Medicare insurance program. I just every year provide the numbers of what the number of people that we help during a very short Medicare annual enrollment period. People get inundated with mailings and advertising and phone calls and emails. It's just relentless. We provide unbiased Medicare counseling by certified staff so that it's no sales. We cut to the chase to figure out what's best for the individual and help them decide which one they want. And then our New York Connects program, just briefly listed here, is basically like our intake in that whatever an individual is in need, they call and their first stop is with our New York Connects program. Kind of works with them to determine what the situation is, what the needs are, what the strengths are, what the resources are, and then kind of match them up with different available benefits, programs, services, whether it be from our office or other programs and services. So that's kind of a nutshell of some of what we have going on and some of the current happenings in those particular service areas.
Thank you. A lot of work, a lot of good work. You have a resolution authorizing the Cayuga County Legislature and Director of the Office for Aging to create and fill a part-time aging services assistant position and abolish a part-time aging services specialist position in the Office for Aging. Motions?
Make motion?
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. So reading through this and what I understand is that you believe that with the new position of an aging services assistant, that you'll actually have, given the work you've done with Diane and the development of all of those details, you'll actually have a greater pool of people to pull from for this long outstanding.
As the other department heads have said, we're
Right.
forced to be as creative as possible to try to
Right.
fill these positions. So we've been looking since August to fill it as an aging services specialist. And that title is designed to be a human services professional. And when it was developed, we had the thought that being a part-time position, it might be a position that people would then move into one of our case manager positions at some point. What we're finding is we're not getting any applications for a part-time specialist. As moving it to an aging services assistant is not so specific to human services. And we can look at a broader spectrum of people with a broader range of degrees.
Very innovative, and I appreciate that. And a wash because of, I'm assuming because of abolishing the aging services specialist. Any questions, discussion?
This is why you want to go last, because you're like, okay. This is why you want to go last, this question.
Second to last.
Right.
That's the last laugh.
You're right.
All in favor?
I
Any opposed? So carried.
apologize to. Frank and I are gonna come by to your office as soon as he's up and going.
Yeah.
See you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, for Evergreen, Deborah. Our youth bureau director.
Look at me, I'm driving my kids this place, that place, picking on.
We'll get you, we'll switch the order.
He's trying to get you off the hook, so you can scoot it out of here pretty
apologize for
fast.
that. I was about to adjourn and that's not my fault.
That's fine. Well, the easy thing about me is, for those of you that don't know, I'm a department of one. So I'm the youth bureau director. I've been here since October 31st of 2023. No, I'm sorry, 2022. So I am relatively new to the position compared to the person that was in the position prior. I work here in the county office building on the 5th floor. I primarily work with a youth advisory board, and we review applications that come in for funding I receive from New York State Department of OCFS. So we receive funding every year from New York State to fund programs in the county area for youth development, youth sports and education, youth team sports opportunities throughout Cayuga County. One unique thing about the Youth Bureau right now is I also have ARPA funding that was granted to the Youth Bureau in 2022. So that money has to be dedicated by 2024 and spent by 2026. You will be receiving several resolutions from me this year to contract with those agencies that are currently in the process of applying. We're always looking for more applications. So if anybody has any interest in getting that application, I'd be happy to send it out to you, because we are constantly reviewing applications that we do receive for funding. And you will see my resolution tonight, I do have 3 entities on there for New York State OCFS funding. Like I mentioned, all the programs are 100% reimbursable by New York State.
Would you be able to send that to us?
Absolutely.
You know, the application
Mhm.
and like what the qualifications are.
Yep.
gonna-
Yeah, that was my question, how you determine who gets funding and
Yeah.
what the process is.
Okay.
Was kind of, when I read through it, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay, yep, I can give you a general synopsis of what we do and how the
Yeah.
funding is determined. I don't make that the choice on my own. We have a board that kind of goes through the different things, and we look at the different areas. Like for instance, some of the programs that we have funded currently and in the past, Booker T. Washington, YMCA, CHAD for their in-school education program for kids for violence and drug use. Cayuga Counseling has received funding before, the Rev Theater, different summer camps, just anything to provide youth opportunities for any recreation, any activities that they can do at no cost to them. That's a big main thing for the funding, that it has to be offered to kids if they're not, no one can be turned away for their inability to pay. And one thing that we're really trying to do with the board is really spread out the program opportunities out into the rural areas of Cayuga County where there isn't often things for the kids to do. So when myself and the board has met, we've talked about different ways that I could go to meetings and help do, like, I want to say a full training, but kind of talk to them about, you know, the Meridian Ira Cato summer recreation program. This is what they do. This is what they do for the kids. This is about how much it costs them, and just to try to encourage other towns and villages to put similar programs together for their youth throughout the year.
They go to higher.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, we gave them funding last year for the program.
You've really raised the radar on the youth bureau throughout the county in the last year. And it's clear with, as a member of the youth board, youth bureau advisory committee, right? I'm seeing requests coming, you know, trickling in
Mhm.
from, you know, north to south, east to
Mhm.
west in those rural areas.
Yeah, it's nice to get the word out and for people that never had heard of the Youth Bureau before and ask questions. Just to kind of give you an idea, this year, New York State gave Cayuga County, we have $142,000 for 2024 to give out. So we've awarded some of that funding. I still do have funding available to give out. So when our board meets again in March, we'll be going through some more applications.
So, any other updates?
No, I did, One thing I did mention, I did send the save the date out for the New York, for the Student Government Day, but I also sent a lot of our students a link. There is actually New York State Center Youth Leadership Recognition Awards going out right now that students can be nominated for. So I sent the information out there to the schools that I've worked with on Student Government Day. And then I'm just, like I said, just still accepting applications for different programs. I spoke with the mayor of Union Springs today to try to get some programming out there at least 3 days a week. Hopefully this summer, we're gonna be looking at doing something out there. He'd like to get back into doing something along those lines. So just kind of helping him through the application process, because Heidi has seen the application. It's from New York State. We have our own Cayuga County applications. That's pretty simple. But the New York State one has a lot of numbers and things like that on it. So I'm always available as a resource to help somebody fill that out, because it can be a little overwhelming for a first time person doing
Okay, would you like to move to your resolution?
that. Yes.
Okay, this is HH 14, to authorize the chair of the Cayuga County Legislature and the director of the Youth Bureau to execute agreements with various agencies to provide youth development services for youth team sports. There is a specific fund that is dedicated to youth team sports. A motion, put this on the table.
Make motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, questions. You have three.
The South Cayuga Little League funding is they're requesting for infrastructure improvements to their Frontenac Park Little League field. Auburn Lacrosse Boosters is for scholarships and equipment for their Auburn men's lacrosse for the kids, for camps and different programs for children. Lacrosse is more of an expensive sport, so it's helping recruit more children to play the game who may not be able to typically afford the equipment, the helmets and sticks and things of that nature. And Booker T. Washington this month is actually starting, they do an after-school intramural basketball league with all of the schools in the city of Auburn. And that's just to pay for staffing for that program.
And all of these requests have been reviewed by the advisory council and selected at these rates of.
Yeah, we had a meeting, I believe it was December 16th, and we voted on the applications for this at that time.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Look forward to
Thank you.
the next set of,
Oh, perfect, yeah.
next set of funding requests.
Yeah, I've been getting some more, so it's interesting. I'm gonna go to the hideout on Friday afternoon and finally touch base with Daryl on. No, well, actually, I share, we have a grant manager. He started this past June, so him and I share the office or right before real property, but I should get assigned like that.
I would like to request a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned. Thank you, folks. This committee tends to be